Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Consistently OK podcast. My name's Luke, and I'm joined by Nick Extraordinaire Good, and we're here to give you another pop culture episode. We're talking about Secret Invasion. Was it good? We'll tell you. We also kind of really go hard on the MCU and the status of the MCU. It wasn't meant to be that, but we talk about it anyway. We also talk about Oppenheimer, which Nick has seen, and Barbie, which I've seen, and we talk about Spider-Man 2, with more announcements at San Diego Comic-Con and a little bit more about San Diego Comic-Con as well. So, listen, enjoy this, grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Here's the Consistently OK podcast. Joining us on our Consistently OK podcast, and this episode is a pop culture episode. It's actually our penultimate episode for season 3. So we're excited. We're looking forward to it. We're going to talk about a few different things, mainly surrounding. Feels like a Marvel heavy episode. This is going to be. So if you don't like Marvel, then tough. You're in it. So just like Nick is, you like Marvel, don't you, Nick? You don't mind it.
I'm on the fence.
So how are you? You good, Nick?
I am all good. Yeah, we're doing all right. You know, we're plodding along with Lone Tales. We're pretty much done. It's
yes.
After the printers this week, which will be cool. So we'll have a little graphic novel out by the end of this month. Hopefully, provided that the world isn't explode or something. Knowing our luck. But otherwise all good.
As long as the printers aren't in like Italy or Greece, where basically temperatures are still storing, then it's going to be okay.
Yeah, which there's irony in that we're writing in a world about climate change.
It's true. We predicted the future.
Yeah.
So,
and
a few things have happened since we last spoke. There was a TV show. Should we just start there?
Yeah, I think
we spoke about on our last pop culture episode. I think we'd only seen maybe 2 episodes. So that's the Secret Invasion show that's been on Disney Plus. So it wrapped up. Wow, the time of recording it wrapped up on Wednesday, just gone. So, I think I'll go first this time. So I didn't love the Secret Invasion comic by Brian Michael Bendis. I liked it a lot, but there was a lot of good stuff in there. At the time of its release, it was sort of like, oh man, who's a Skrull? And kind of like opened up this like door of just chaos in the Marvel universe. And this is, there are a lot of Marvel comics out there. It wasn't like now where it's like every character has like 4 titles out and it's all just crazy. Well, I was really excited about the TV show when it was announced, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. The cast is great. It felt like, you kind of had Nick Fury finally at the center of something, had Olivia Colman in it, had Emilia Clarke in it, who I really like Emilia Clarke as well, despite obviously it wasn't her fault how Game of Thrones ended. And had Ben Mendelsohn was in it. That I say his surname?
Mendelsohn, I think.
Cool. I can't even remember which one I said first, but we'll just call him Ben.
Ben.
So had a really good cast. I thought it'd be a really good TV show because you'd have your like twists going throughout it and everything like that, so you wouldn't know who was a Skrull and everything like that. Don Cheadle was in it as well. Obviously spoilers, by the way. We don't know that we do spoilers. We do spoilers straight away. That's how we roll. Yeah. And I think it started off strongly, as I said in our last episode. I actually didn't have any real issues with it until sort of the last 2 episodes, like episode 5, episode 6. My biggest gripe, as I've said a million times before, is with the time limits on these shows. Your first one is like 55 minutes. And bearing in mind these credits run for quite a while as well, so that takes up a chunk of this time. And then it was like sort of like a 40-minute and then a 37 and a 35. I don't know, like for something like a Friends or How I Met Your Mother, like those comedy shows, half an hour is the perfect chunk of time. But for something like this, like a thriller, like an hour, is minimum. Like 50 minutes to an hour is perfect, because there's a big story to tell here, right? This is a comic, for all intents and purposes, could have been like one of the first big events in this MCU. Secret Invasion could have been massive. Like, it could have been a film that people earlier on in the MCU, people would have gone to the cinema to see this. If it was like Avengers Secret Invasion, people would have gone to see it, right? And again, we've spoken about the fact there's a bit of a lull at the moment, and people have seen everything, and there's the Quantum Mania thing and all of that stuff. But with this, it kind of, I don't think it lost its way. I think they went in. I don't know what was wrong with it. I think they made mistakes because they forgot about everything that had gone before, basically. And as a big MCU fan, there were like hiccups along the way. I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. They've done that, and okay, you can't build to the MCU threat of something like Thanos. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, again, there's spoilers, but at the end of this series, like, basically, they have loads of powers. They've harvested loads of powers and DNA from the Endgame battle, and they make basically a super soldier that Gravik, who's the villain, wants, because he wants the powers of Thor and Thanos and everything. You basically are making a superhero or a villain that is just undeniable. Like, that will not be able to be beaten, right? And then in the end, Gaia, who's Talos's daughter, she has these powers, and it kind of felt forced, and it kind of felt a bit. It wasn't needed. Like, it would have been a better ending if Nick Fury. I know he technically outsmarts Gravik, right? I get that, but it was his story, right? It should have been him or Talos, I think, that should have ended this uprising of Skrulls. I think it just got lost, and I think it's probably come for the fact that they were like, we've got to hit this time limit, and we've got to like get all this stuff in. But again, if it just had more time to breathe, and it has happened with nearly every MCU TV show, apart from maybe WandaVision and Loki, because Loki was so well paced, right? And they got the twists in the right places, and the best ending to an MCU show so far. But this was kind of like, right, we've got 30 minutes. We have to tie up all of these loose ends, and then there has to be this thing at the end, because all that you get, that battle at the end, was very minimal, right? It was like lasers and some Captain Marvel powers and some Drax arm and everything, and then you're left at the end thinking, like, because there's like, then it knocks on, because it's not over with the Skrulls, right? Because the Marvels is probably going to have more Skrull, because the villain in Marvels is a Kree descendant who is against probably what Nick Fury was talking about at the end, where the Kree and the Skrulls are going to come back together again, which kind of makes you think that the whole thing was pointless as well, in a way. And that they have the whole thing with Don Cheadle with Rhodes, because everyone's now kicking off, which is why I do not like Twitter necessarily, because everything links to everything. It's like, oh, this doesn't make sense, because the director's now come out, probably randomly in an interview, because he probably didn't know what was going on, saying that Rhodes has been a Skrull since Civil War, which doesn't make any sense, because in Captain America Winter Soldier, he's not got his leg braces on. So you could say that's when he got taken over for that. But then in Endgame and Infinity War, he has his braces on, and they wouldn't be. He's obviously really emotional, and there's this whole thing with like, oh, he was bleeding red in Endgame. So all of this shit could have been avoided really easily, if when Martin Freeman's character turned around and said to him, like, how long have you been under? And he was like, I don't know. The last thing I remember is the blip. Like, I don't know, something so easy, but I think it's just taken so much away from what was pretty good at the first half of the series. And then it kind of just dissolved a little bit. And now probably the best cast they've had on paper this whole time in a TV show has been wasted. And it's like sort of left a sour taste, because it got badly reviewed by critics. And I don't know why, really. The first few episodes, especially, like, I don't believe that. And usually, when the critics are hard on things, the audience rise up against it. Like, it's like, I don't want an iPhone because everyone's got an iPhone. So it's like, I don't believe you, critics. I'm gonna fight the machine. So yeah, I mean, that was a huge ramble then. I think I'm just quite frustrated. I'm frustrated as well, because I definitely wouldn't give it. I mean, I definitely wouldn't give it like 10 out of 10, but I don't think I'd go much it would be like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's awful. I think it just leaves things a bit messy, which is just not what we needed now in the MCU after the Marvel people. It's just not what was needed in terms of after Quantumania getting badly reviewed, and I quite like Quantumania, right? And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which a lot of people really liked, and you and I both really like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And it just feels like this is a bit of a step backwards again. And that is the typical thing. It's like, I always read the whole, like, Marvel's dead because of She-Hulk or something. And it's like, oh no, Marvel's alive again because of Wakanda Forever. As I know, Marvel's dead again now because of Quantumania. Oh, Marvel's great again because of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 3. And now you feel like after Secret Invasion, it's like, that's 50-50. But it doesn't feel like it's the decision made at the end. I don't think it's going to make people be like, Marvel's. Like, we're going to go see that, because in the trailer, Nick Fury, who's in the trailer, is all like kind of his normal comedy, like, self again. I don't know. What do you think? Did any of that make any sense, by the way?
Yeah, I get it.
If it doesn't make sense to you, then people are going to be tuning out as they go.
I get it. I think for me, like, after we spoke, I've really enjoyed those first 2 episodes, and I thought they were interesting and good, and the acting was good, the writing was good, everything worked for me. And then the 3rd and 4th, I just thought were not the same thing. Like, they just became very run-of-the-mill. There was no nuance to it, I think, is my problem. It felt very plain. And then the last 2, I just think, were a mess. Like, they just weren't good. Like, not even average. They were just genuinely like, this is poor storytelling. And I think I said to you in a message that it started to just feel like the most Marvel thing, where my issue with Marvel, like Disney Marvel, is always that they seem to just pull their punches. It's like, they will give you an inch, 2 inches of something where you're like, that's a really interesting idea. That's really cool. And then they'll go, ignore that and look at this massive CGI fest. Like, look at all of this. It's crazy. And it's just like, well, that's fucking nonsense.
Because they could have scaled this back, right? They could have scaled it back. It could have been.
Yeah. Like, this should have been a way smaller show. Like, it shouldn't have been.
It could have been smaller.
Yeah,
it went too nuts. I think involving like the president and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because now you've got that president in there. Like, he's now in there, right? He's probably, if there's more stuff, because obviously the thing with this is it's probably going to lead into Armor Wars, Thunderbolts.
Because he's gone by the time
America
hits, right? Because in Thunderbolts, Ross is the president. Isn't that right? That Harrison Ford. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Harrison Ford is playing president.
Yeah, he gets voted in. I don't know what it's called.
Elected.
No, yeah. I read there's a scene where he gets like sworn in.
Okay. Yeah, because I assume that's why they added that like line from Fury where he's like, that's a one-term president thing. Because it was like, you actually will be. But I just it just felt like I wasn't surprised by the fact that it went there. Like, in the 3rd, 4th episode, I was like, yeah, I can see what you're doing now. And then the 5th, 6th, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I expect. And I think if you like, whenever I look at the things that Marvel do that I like, they surprise me. Like, Guardians 3 really surprised me. Ms. Marvel surprised me. What was the other Marvel thing we'd seen recently? There was something else. No, that was terrible. Let's not talk about that. I mean, it's not as bad as Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it wasn't good. But that's another case in point, actually. Moon Knight is something where it's just like, that absolutely pulled its punches in every single way. Like, nothing
that's
that.
The thing. So we just said it. It's the same thing, isn't it? Like, the first few episodes are good. I really like the first episode of Moon Knight when he's in his bed and he doesn't know where he's been.
I thought it was terrible.
He's screaming in an ice cream truck. Like, I don't mind that stuff. But then it kind of like, don't know, drags its feet, overcomplicates itself, and then you, like you said, you got a big CGI thing at the end and everything. But again, it's if you give it a 3 more episodes and spread out the time, you could tell a lot more story and make it feel more coherent and just choppy, and making sure these characters get some 10 minutes of whatever. And that's where this really struggled. It was the time. It was overcomplicated. Like, we were in Russia, then we're here, then we're there. It could have, the whole thing literally could have been Rhodes being a Skrull. Like, he could have been just pulling the strings the whole time. Like, that would have been more of a, like, holy fuck, like an Avenger is a Skrull. But you didn't know who it was the whole time. But it was revealed kind of felt a bit obvious with Rhodes quite early on. I mean, he did say Nick, but again, that was pointed out to a lot of people. But I don't know. I think they just needed to almost dumb it down a little bit, not to make it stupid, but like make it a proper thriller. Like, give it that Winter Soldier feel, which it did feel like that in the first episode. Kind of felt like that's where they were going with it. But then, like you said, it goes all CGI crazy, and like, now Gaia is just this all powerful person. Like, you just leave a bit of a sour taste in your mouth, because it's kind of like, it's just not needed. Like, why have someone that's more powerful than Captain Marvel running around, and Thor, and essentially, like, it's just someone who gets, like, they're going to be like the Eternals, right? Where where are they going to fit in now? Like, where does that happen? Like, what? There's so many superheroes now, and I get it, and I know what they can do, and I know what they might do eventually, which is if Secret Wars, where if there's like a big event and half of them go missing, then they reintroduce them slowly or whatever. But it's just so overwhelming now. I think that was my biggest disappointment. It didn't need it. Like, it didn't need it. It could have just been Talos and Nick Fury and Rhodes and Gavik and Emilia Clarke as well. Like, they, those, I've got nothing wrong with the characters being in there, but it just could have been done better. And it sounds like the director is as confused as us, because I think he's just throwing answers out there. Whereas 3 or 4 years ago, Kevin Feige would have been head of all of this, and he would have been like, no, this is this. It kind of feels like there's no one, what they were so good at leading up into Endgame, and like making sure everything sort of flowed. And there obviously were some hiccups along the way. Like, I'm sure the Infinity Gauntlet wasn't supposed to be in Odin's chamber in Thor, because they didn't know it was going to be such a crucial thing going forward. So they had to pretend it was a replica. Like, but I think they've just kind of lost a little bit of sight of it. And that's what I'm trying to say at the beginning with Secret Invasion. It could have been something so much different earlier on, when they were like really focused on it. But I kind of feel like with the writer's strike and stuff now, it gives them a bit of time to pause and reflect. But unfortunately, the next 2 things coming out, or the next 3 things coming out, is you've got the Marvels, which is probably already off to a bit of a bad start because this got so badly reviewed. You've got Loki season 2, which is got Jonathan Majors in it, which no one knows what's going to happen with that. Kang wasn't well received in Quantumania by a lot of people. And then you've got Deadpool 3, which sounds like it's going to clear up a lot of the Fox universe. But for all we know, it's going to actually make the MCU even more of a mess, just to get some laughs and some pops in the audience, because, James Marsden might show up as Cyclops and things like that. So I feel like it does need a bit of a break to kind of recover some things. I think there needs to be someone coming out and saying, I'm making it as if this is like a massive deal, but it's not. But it's just, it needs someone to be like, this is where Rhodes was. This is when it was cleared up. And I was like, this will be, you'll hear all your answers in like Armor Wars. Like, but I can say he's been Rhodes up until Endgame. Like, that's when it would make more sense, right? As well, there's a big fucking battle. All the Skrulls are clearing things up, and someone takes Rhodes out. I'm pretty irritated about the whole thing, Nick.
Problem in my world with Marvel. Every time I watch a Marvel thing, I'm generally like, this is just terrible. And I
think it's just getting to the point now where it's like, as such a huge Marvel fan, like, I'm a big Marvel fan. I mean, if I could turn my computer on, you'd just see shelves and shelves of like omnibuses of comics and figures and everything. But that doesn't mean I'm a big fan, but I've followed it for so much of my life since I was younger. And you get so excited when all these like characters come, like Moon Knight, like a huge Moon Knight fan. Like, Moon Knight. I love the Eternals, like the Kirby stuff and everything. I love all that. And then so it just feels so forgotten, you know. Like each character is kind of passable now, whereas they're not. You know, eventually these pop-ups of characters are just going to feel a bit underwhelming, aren't they? If sort of not already. I mean, No Way Home worked because it was like these older characters that we had kind of grown up with a bit, like Doc Ock and stuff, were coming back. But now it's like, I don't know, it's sort of shifted a little bit, and I feel like maybe I'm not as excited about, like, you know, I used to really, when Civil War came out, for instance. I know you love it, but I was like counting down the days. Really, I was like, I cannot wait. Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home. And when No Way Home got like paused in here because of COVID, I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna lose my mind. But it's just it's kind of like just another thing now, isn't it? It's kind of like, yeah, this is on. Yeah, this is at the cinema. I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah, I think I think my problem with it has always just been storytelling. That I just feel like they have the odd gem where it's like you've actually figured out a way to tell an interesting story with superheroes, and it makes you think. And then so much of phase 4 has just been like escapism. It's like just escape, just ignore everything and just escape, because just that's what we're here for. And it, like, that's the stuff that I hate. Like, I hate watching, like, maybe hate's a strong word, I don't know. I loathe watching stuff where it's just there's no point to it. Like, for me, like, I get that, you know, that people go to the cinema for escapism and people watch things to escape and stuff, and that's perfectly fine. But like, for me, I escape through feeling something. Like, if a film makes me feel like an emotion, or if I connect something, or if I think like that was an amazing piece of art, like, that's me escaping. Like, I'm not somebody who, you know, if I'm down or whatever, I can't watch depressing films. Like, I'd rather watch those to feel something. And I think that Marvel is just in this habit now of like, we can't give you anything that's going to make you feel sad or make you feel, you know, like uncomfortable in some way, because we have to give you joy. We have to give you this. We have to give you that. And it's just, like, after a while, if you stick to that formula, it just becomes the same, because you're targeting the same emotion. Every single thing is like, it's always got to climax in joy and emotion and action and heart. Like, here's this, and it doesn't work. Like, the last, excluding Guardians, generally the last thing of every Marvel film or show in the last, like, what, 2 years, has been a massive action sequence with a few jokes in between. And they all target that same feeling. They're all targeting, like, you want to leave the cinema going like, that was amazing, like, that was huge action and that joke was quality and whatever. But now that they've done it for so many times, I think general audiences who would go for escapism are now noticing the cracks. It's like, well,
But that's what I'm noticing the cracks.
yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
probably
Yeah.
would have been blind to it. I mean, you're right
Yeah.
in terms of emotion, because again, Secret Invasion was the perfect foil to do something emotional, because
Yeah.
you got right there. Nick Fury doesn't want to use the Avengers, right? So put him in a situation where he's on his knees, like, this guy cannot do anymore, but he still manages to find a win, not through superpowers, but through being Nick Fury. Like, just, it could have been really dark and really heavy. Like, no, it could have just been, I don't know, like, just anything but the thing that we got at the end, which again is fine in the grand scheme of things. If that was in the middle, okay, fine, but it could have been really emotional, really dark, really, you know, what do you do in a world when there are no superheroes to save the day? You've just got a man and his, like, knowledge of being a spy and things like that, and Olivia Colman helping in the background with her little war chest that she's got. But, you know, the man didn't even mourn Talos.
Yeah.
Like, Talos dies, and they have these 2 or 3 scenes where they're like in a car talking, and they're like bring up their past and everything they've gone through. Talos dies, and then what does Nick Fury do? Like, even Gaia, like, she buries him in that scene. But, like, there's no Nick Fury like talking to his wife. There's no, like, Nick Fury even consoling. that would have been I would have written that so Nick Fury actually confines in Olivia Colman's character. You know, they're two like their egos are like side by side, but they don't. They go to a grave of Nick Fury, but they don't even bring up Talos. Like he's not. You know, he's in the end he's just happy to go back in his spaceship and stuff. And you know, and there's a reason I did read someone say like, why is Nick Fury going to space when all these Skrulls are being killed? But obviously the idea is that he gets the Skrulls off the planet, right? Back to, and also the fact that he can't find a planet, which I know isn't the story. It's not supposed to be like easy, but come on, Nick Fury, you can find a planet, mate. Like there must be loads out there.
But it's also the same with Maria Hill, right? Like she dies first episode, and then you have the mum be like, you know, basically make her death mean something, and then it's like that she doesn't. Like the whole of that story is fucking pointless. Right.
So in the last scene when he's fighting Gravik, like imagine if Gravik does turn into a Super Skrull, right? Whatever he does, but he could be saying like, you know, this is for Maria Hill, this is for Talos. Like you've taken these people from me. Like he killed two of his closest allies, right? But he doesn't even confront him, you know? Like he doesn't go and fight him. He sends Gaia to go and do the damage. Like there's no like, you know, wiping the shit off his shoe at the end of it. There's no like, well, you have all this power and all this going on, but you have not beaten me, and I'm just a man, you know? So when I say 6 or 7 out of 10, I actually do mean that, because there was a lot that I like about it as well. But it didn't get off to the best start with this whole AI generated shit, did it either? Like, let's face it, people were getting like anti it before it really even got going, and I think it was downhill from there for a lot of critics and people in the process. But they, you know, again, Marvel need to have a really. My main concern with the whole thing is by the time we get to Avengers Kang Dynasty, if that even still happens, or even Secret Wars, is that people probably start feeling like you have done for a long time, and the way I start to feel a little bit about things. But you won't get that sort of 4-star review or that like, Jesus Christ, that was amazing, because like you said, if they keep putting these massive fights at the end of every single film, and I know it is a comic book film, right? So it is supposed to be action. Like there's always a lot of action, but I think we all need a little bit more as well. Like,
I think that's the thing. Like you can balance both, and I think that's the thing that Marvel just doesn't know how to do at the moment, is how to balance both. Like I'm always more of a DC guy, film wise, but that is generally because those films are just dark throughout the whole thing. It's like, we're just going to give you something that you just feel. There is action in it, but it's not like you don't walk away and go like, that action piece was like mental. It's more like, that was really depressing that happened, kind of thing. And like they're the sections I like. That's the stuff that you don't see in Marvel to give you that balance. So like you literally do at the moment have like DC very dark, Marvel very light. And it's kind of rare that you find like a difference in the two, unless you watch Marvel and then DC film and then a Marvel and DC film, I guess. But they're not the same universe. And it's the thing that you always need to figure out. Like I always thought DC did it best, where it was like you've got like Snyder stuff, which is just pure, it's bleak, it's depressing, everybody's miserable. I like it. But then you get something like Shazam, like the first Shazam film, very much exists in that world, but it's light. It's like, oh, okay, we can kind of do it. Like that is the tone that I'm like, it's situated in the same universe, but it's just got a different feel.
But then in that instance, you could take that Shazam character and put that in a Snyder film to make, when the serious stuff is going on.
Yeah, he would balance it. Yeah.
Shazam serious, right?
Yeah.
It's likewise with if Superman, when Superman raced Flash, for instance, in Justice League, you know, Superman is serious when he needs to be serious, which is quite a lot of the time, and he can do that other stuff as well without it seeming too corny.
Yes, but the thing with Marvel is that they don't have that. Like every character is the exact same in everything that they're in, and it's because there is not a different tone. Like if you like Moon Knight in comic wise, especially like Lemire's run, I would never put that Moon Knight into like the Avengers. because it's like those two worlds just don't gel. Like they just don't.
You wouldn't. Didn't we say this
Yeah.
before as well? That there would have to be a Marvel Knights thing, wouldn't it? You'd have to have the
Yeah,
darker side
yeah, you
of
would.
Marvel. You'd have to have Moon Knight and Blade,
Yes.
Daredevil. Like those people should be nowhere near the Avengers. Like the
Yeah.
Avengers should be the bright, action-packed stuff, but this other stuff should be completely different. So a viewer could easily watch Moon Knight and not have to care about Avengers. You know.
Yes. However, in Disney, if you put Moon Knight into an Avengers film, I think it would work. He's got that tone. Like he doesn't have the tone of like it is that different. It's like you could easily put that Moon Knight again, like with Hawkeye or what you call it, Kate Bishop. Like you could put them next to each other and it'd be fine. Like that whole thing would be cool. And it shouldn't be, because that's not how the universe should work. You should have these different themes and different tones, and everything should.
Well, they've already done that with Daredevil going into She-Hulk, right?
Yeah, which is like, I'm really curious, like when they do Daredevil season four, new season, whatever they're going to call it. It's not season 4 apparently. Will that Daredevil be what he was in the Netflix series, or is he going to be closer to the She-Hulk one, where it's like he's got a bit of humor, he's got a bit of lightness? Because so far I haven't seen enough of a tonal shift in the MCU to give me that feel. And I think that is probably where audiences are getting hit. Like Guardians 3 is probably one of the exceptions of definitely in recent years where it's like that is a really sad story. Like nothing about that is happy. Like the last note of that film is super bittersweet, because it's just like they saved the day, but then they all just went their separate ways. Like the band broke up. It's like they go, here is a amazing record. Like it is a band going like, here's the best record we've ever done, and then going like, we're done. See you later.
Yeah.
That's giving you that different tone. And I just think that's what the MCU is lacking, is that it is lacking this difference of opinion, this different worldview. And it feels like, as you say, they've lost track of what connects, but what they haven't lost track of is like the tone of the world. And they've just lent more into that, where it's like, okay, well, we need to make sure that this fits our world, this fits our world, this fits. But it's like, no, like what's right for the character, what's right for their story, and that will naturally fit into that world, because people will recognize the world just through a different lens.
That's what something like Winter Soldier was, right? Winter Soldier was a thriller, and it worked, and that's what worked at the beginning as well, because Thor was like fantasy, Captain America was like your thriller stuff, Iron Man was sort of the, I don't know, like action side of things, Guardians of the Galaxy was sci-fi, and then it's kind of lost its way quite a lot. And I think shows like She-Hulk, as much as I like some bits of She-Hulk, I think like the breaking the fourth wall at the end and stuff is you go from that, and then you go to Wakanda Forever, which was obviously had quite a lot of soul to it and things, but then it's almost like Wakanda Forever's tone doesn't mean anything, because they're just straight back to like bam, 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 bam. Like I know it's definitely. I think it definitely needs to find its way again, and I think it needs to find it quickly. I kind of wish Secret Wars actually was coming at the end of this phase to kind of like close some chapters for good, and then start anew before Fantastic Four and X-Men begin. But I still love it. I still have high hopes for it, and I still will always watch it and enjoy it. But I don't not enjoy it. It's 50-50, obviously, judging from my whole talk so far. But I just think that I don't know if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, or if they're just like trying to rush things out. So I kind of hope that the only benefit to anything with this writer strike, which is very necessary, and I hope that gets sorted, is that there's a bit of a pause, and so Kevin Feige and stuff can take a seat back and not write anything down, but just say like, right, we've seen the reaction to something like Secret Invasion. Like, let's make sure that going forward we have a grasp of what our audience wants and what they're looking for. They'll never win with internet trolls and stuff like that. They'll never ever win. Because they'll just hammer anything. Like Marvel's is going to get hammered before it even gets out of first gear, isn't it? Because it's 3 female lead characters and a female villain. So it's sadly, wrongfully so, it's like fuck before it even gets started, because the way the world is, unfortunately. So right, I mean that was fun. Yeah, Secret Invasion turned into a Marvel like a TED talk. So so moving away from Marvel, and the shitstorm we just spoke of, I actually went to see a film that was non-Marvel related a few days ago, which was good. It was the Barbie film,
Oh, nice.
and it was an interesting one.
Okay.
It was very bright
Hmm.
and had a very good cast, and
Hmm.
it worked for what it was. Like
Okay.
if you can just not think about how things work in it, like how is this Barbie being affected by this,
Hmm.
and if you could just not think about that, then it's a very well put together film.
Okay.
Ryan Gosling is amazing in it. He has a very, very, very good song in it.
Cool.
Margot Robbie is great as well. She is like the perfect person for Barbie, and there's a voiceover in it as well who like goes over the fact that there's like one bit where Margot Robbie's character is like down and out, and she's like saying that she's ugly, but then the voiceover is like, "You should never have cast Margot Robbie as Barbie if you ever want that line to be true." So
Nice.
it's very aware of itself, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, and it works. It's good. It's a very fun time at the cinema. I don't think I would probably ever need to see it again.
Okay.
Again, that's not a bad thing. That's
Yeah.
just, I think once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Yeah. Right.
I feel that way about not just that sort of film. Like I felt that way about Marvel and DC films as well. So no one has to come at me and be like, "Oh, like you don't know cinema." There's a lot of films like that. There's a lot of films I would see multiple times. There's some films I feel like I don't ever need to see again.
Yeah.
Don't know why I keep doing that with my hand. It's done.
It's done.
Saying that, my wife didn't get to see it, so I will see it again, and it'd be interesting to see how I feel about it. But I think I'll mainly be looking forward to the bits that are like Ryan Gosling's Ken song and some bits I did find. It wasn't like laugh out loud funny. I think I say that quite often when we talk about comedies. Like it didn't, definitely when we've been talking about some of the Kevin Smith films more recently. But there are bits that make you chuckle. Will Ferrell is Will Ferrell. Like
Hmm.
is kind of over the top best. I think from what it could have been in other hands, it might have been terrible. But they definitely opened the door for this works. Let's do more of that, and
Okay.
it was good. I think you would enjoy it as well. I think anybody who goes to see it, there's no one that's not going to see it and be like, that was shit. Because I
Okay.
mean, there will be people, but I'm talking about people that aren't just complete idiots and hate everything around like that isn't like man masculine. Like you know what I mean? Like those idiots.
Was it
Um,
was it weird? Because like the part of the reason I want to see it is that I love Greta Gerwig and I love
mhm.
Noah. I forgot his surname. Baumbach. Baum.
Oh
Something like
yeah,
that. The two of
Burkamp.
them. Yeah. Because like the two of them I just think are great. And obviously they like Greta directed it and I think they both wrote it.
Yeah,
Um and that to me just suggests it's going to be kind of a weird film.
it is
Um
weird. It
okay,
is
cool.
weird, but
Because
good weird.
okay, because I thought like it would either go one way where it would be really weird or this would be their like mainstream film.
No,
Um
it's
okay,
it really shouldn't work. Like it
cool.
shouldn't work.
That's good.
So again, I wonder if you put some different cast members in there,
Hmm.
would it work? Because I think the cast really bring it. Like they're so Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. There's a bunch of other people in there. I can't remember who they are, but they all bring it to life, and they all know what their roles are, and they know how to perform it, and they know it's. You know, I think Ryan Gosling said once he was in like the zone of Ken, like he really like he didn't ever want to come out of it. Like he was so happy and having so much fun. So
Nice.
it's it's a feel good film. You know, I think I say about comics as well all the time that I read so many depressing comics. Like
Hmm.
comics can be a very depressing place.
Hmm.
So every now and again, you get a bit of a gem, and it kind of lifts you out of that sort of man. That was a lot because if you're going off sort of watching you know Secret Invasion, Hijack, you know even things like The Bear and stuff have their like they're quite heavy in those things, and this is just a kind of a like a like
Yeah,
a bit of morphine in your arm, and you
cool.
just kind of zone out and you really enjoy it. I can't imagine what people have felt like when they've gone to see Barbie and then they've gone to see Oppenheimer back to back. I
Yeah.
feel like you're only I don't know which way would actually work better because you're kind of a bit fuzzy after watching Barbie and like that was really fun, and then I imagine Oppenheimer is like, huh, and then I don't know how you do those two back together. My oldest brother and I, we used to go and see films like we used to go and see like two horror films back to back, or
Cool.
at least maybe an action film and a horror film.
Mhm.
But seeing like a biopic and musical comedy
Yeah.
must be thing. But it was good. Definitely see it. Anyone listening should go and see it if they've not seen it already. Everyone that I know that has seen it has really enjoyed it. I went with my middle brother, his wife, and my two nephews
Cool.
um, who really enjoyed it as well. We all enjoyed it. So good stuff. But I have not seen Oppenheimer, but you, good
I
sir,
have. I have, yes. I made
in
the
IMAX.
yes, went for the IMAX pilgrimage as I always tried to. I think the only Nolan film I haven't seen in IMAX since he started doing them was Tenet, and that was just because it was COVID.
Mm.
But every other Nolan thing, I'll always make the move for IMAX. But yeah, I loved it. Like I really, really loved it. It's kind of like his most straightforward film. There's no like mystery. Like it literally is a biopic. It's just done in Nolan style where there is so much intensity to it. And like I'd be curious to know because like obviously it's kind of hard to spoil this film because like it's real life, like it happened, right? But the nuke part of it for me wasn't the most intense. Like so when you go see it, obviously that bit and the lead up to it is really intense. It's like whoa. But what came after felt more intense to me. And I don't know if it's because you sort of go into it and I was like, oh my God, like the nuke is going to be like the loudest thing and it's going to destroy me. And so I was expecting it to kind of like wind down afterwards. But yeah, the last hour is just like, whoa. Performances are amazing. It's like a cameo, well, not even a cameo because they all have like proper parts. There's just a lot of people who pop up and you're like, oh, they're in it.
I've heard like even the pop up parts are like almost award worthy. Like in
Yeah,
some of them.
yeah, and they're like integral as well. It's not like here's this random actor. It is like they've got roles and they've got reasons and they're kind of precise to the plot. Cillian Murphy is like amazing. I think he's got an Oscar nomination for sure because he's just incredible. Downey Jr. is great. The stuff in black and white is awesome as well. Like seeing IMAX on black and white was really cool.
Downey, I don't even know who plays who really, but is Downey Jr. got a big part? Is he like up for supporting actor potentially?
Yeah, so like the framing of the film is basically that it kind of comes down to these two personalities. There's Oppenheimer and then there's Strauss. I think that's how it's pronounced, which is Downey Jr.'s character. And Oppenheimer and Strauss like cross paths. Basically, there is a thing that makes them meet each other and sort of have connection. And so the way that the thing is framed is that anything in color is from Oppenheimer's point of view, and anything in black and white is from Strauss's point of view, which is a cool frame as well. Like the way that the final act works when it kind of like you see all these pieces move together, it's like, oh, that's really smart. The score's amazing.
I've heard very good things about the score. That'll be up for an Oscar as well, won't it? By the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's Ludwig Göransson, the guy that did Mando season 1 and 2. And I think he did Black Panther, but or worked on Black Panther or something. But yeah, it's just a brilliant score. It's not like in the past, I think Interstellar and Tenet, I had a real issue with the score where it was just like it was too loud. Like I couldn't hear bits of dialogue because of how loud the score hits. But this, in the IMAX I saw it anyway, was perfect. Like everything was like the right volume. I could hear people. The score worked in the right places, and it just really good. Like loved it. Yeah, it is his most like it's the most accessible film I think he's done, other than the fact it's 3 hours. But I also don't know what you'd cut. Because I feel like if you cut things, you do the cut like a really good performance, or you'd cut like a bit of the story that sort of just gives you a bit of an extra detail. So yeah, loved it. Really, really good. I'd be curious to know what you think of it.
Yeah, I will check it out. It's just when.
Yeah.
Also, I don't get to. There is not an IMAX screen close by to me either, so I feel a bit like wrong seeing it in a non-IMAX. But I definitely need to see it in the cinema before I see it in at home. Yeah. I am, however, seeing the new Turtle film.
Hey, I want to see
this
that.
week.
Yeah,
so I'm really excited about it. I've heard some really, really good things. So I'm going to like a pizza party thing at the cinema.
Nice.
So which is pretty cool, because our cinema, I think you and I talked about in our last thing as well, or I don't know if we talked about it privately or not, about like the way cinema's going, obviously with the strikes, and obviously I think everyone needs to get paid and all that things. But I worry about cinemas going forward. I worry about like the experience is going to go down. And you and I were talking about various things, and you know, this the local cinema where I am in Stavanger, the Odeon, they went all out for Barbie. You know, massive pink carpet, pink popcorn, those booth things that you've seen everywhere as well, and ice creams, like free ice creams, food, champagne, the works. Like, and they did this massive day of it, and they're doing the same for Turtles. They're doing like a pizza party thing. You know, a lot of what not to the extent of these events that we see, like our good friend Neil and stuff going to, but they're making an effort because they know like those experiences are probably what is going to be important going forward. So, and they said how Barbie went and all the seats they sold and everything like that, and especially now, because my link to obviously the writers' strike is that there will be some quieter months ahead now, right? Because they announced yesterday a bunch of films are being moved, like Spider-Verse has been really moved indefinitely for now, and
I don't think that's to do with the writers' strike, though, is it? That's
no, it's issues in the studio as well, but it's all linked. They can't record voices either, but it's Craven got moved as well, so we'll have to wait until next year.
Be sad about that, though.
Very sad. But there'll be a knock-on effect. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if even Marvel's got moved as well, which is probably the thing they're really banking on. Marvel's and Dune Part 2, like the things that would have been the big hitters at the end of the year. So that these experiences that they're going to start making for these big theatrical releases, like a lot of it will end up going streaming, won't it? But they have to. That's what's going to get people to go, isn't it? Like, what can we do for Dune? What can we do for the Marvels? Like those sort of things. So it was really a really cool experience, and the one on when I go to see it on Tuesday, I think sounds good as well. So I'm glad you liked Oppenheimer, and I like Barbie.
Great. It's
Barbenheimer, whatever it's called.
So good. Love it. Love the idea. The IMAX I went to, I think there were like 3 seats free. So it was like which was awesome just to see. It was kind of like you felt like you were again kind of like part of something and seeing something. And
because Barbie was packed as well. That's what once a month they should just release 2 massive blockbusters on the same day, because people seem to want to go and see them back to back, don't they? Like
I did see that the internet at one point were trying to push the next big double bill. Did you see this?
No.
So that I think it's October, but there's Paw Patrol, the film.
Fuck.
And then there's Saw 10. And so people were like, go see
I did
Saw
see,
Patrol. And I was like, that's
Saw
amazing.
I mean, I will be going to see Paw Patrol. There's no way. Not because I want. I don't mind, but it would be my daughter and probably my son that will. So now I've got another son on the way. I'll never get rid of Paw Patrol. It's going to be surrounding my life for the next.
Are you going to go see Saw 10 afterwards?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I really want the cinemas to do a Paw Patrol experience, but during it, you just see the little Paw Patrol in like some sort of trap. So you go in, and then all of a sudden, Chase is in this machine. So that sounds terrible. Chase, almost single him out. But I saw. I'd never seen this Saturday Night Live sketch before about Paw Patrol, where it's Oscar Isaac, and he's the host, and he's doing a thing. I'd never seen that before until recently, and it was kind of like, yes, why? Why are these dogs? Why can that 10-year-old drive a giant van through Adventure City or Bay? I don't know. So right. So another thing that happened recently, as we like gear up to the end of this episode, was San Diego Comic-Con, which again we know a few people that went, and they looked like they had a fantastic time. So if you follow another podcast called the Get Your Comic-Con podcast, they've got loads of stuff coming out surrounding San Diego Comic-Con. So you should check those guys out. But because Hollywood weren't there because of the writers' strike, and a lot of them were pulled out even before the writers' strike, like Marvel weren't going to do something, DC weren't going to do anything necessarily, but it felt very comic related. There was a lot of panels that were mainly writers and artists, and letterers, colorists, and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
one of the things I'm really excited for, I know we're going to talk about something bigger, I think, but there's a new publication called Distillery,
Yeah.
and it's got loads of talented artists and writers and letters and everything. My favorite artist ever, Jock, he's part of it. Scott Snyder, who is probably my favorite writer ever. So, you know, when those two did Batman together, I lost my mind. And it's just got loads. It's got like name after name after name, like Ram V, Christian Ward. Christian Ward, who also announced a new Batman comic last week as well. He's doing like a sort of Court of Owls type Black Label comic, which looks fantastic. He's writing and doing the artwork. So there's this new publication. It sounds, it's already got a kind of a big time feel to it, I think, and a lot of creative freedom, which is always nice, because I think you and I have talked about that before as well, where, you know, if someone's locked into something with DC or Marvel and things like that, eventually those things wear down on you. And anyone who follows Scott Snyder's subject will see that he talked about San Diego Comic-Con when he was with DC, and it was very high pressure. But this time, because he's doing his own thing, a lot of the time it's kind of like you can sort of let loose and reconnect a bit more. So that whole thing sounds good, and I'm really looking forward to reading. They have like an issue coming out where it's like several stories in one, so it's going to be good.
I thought it was cool. It's just a cool collection of people, and it sort of feels like the evolution of what Comixology originals were.
Definitely.
Because I think they've sort of like wound Comixology originals down a little bit. And this has a lot of the same creators, as you said, like Scott and Jock and Mark Bernardin, and there's a load of people that are sort of doing Distillery. And I think Distillery is even run by the two people that used to run Comixology.
It is,
and it just sounds cool. Like it just sounded like a cool kind of creative comic burst.
It's nice because it was announced before San Diego Comic-Con, but what was nice is that like they all had their own panels going on. Like there was Image comic stuff, and there was Marvel, and there was DC. But then all of a sudden there was this table, and they all kind of migrated to this table to do like signings and panels to do with that. And I saw it when I was at Thought Bubble last year as well, with the panels and everything like that. That there just seems to be although there can be a bit of a lull with comics sometimes. Like there are hiccups with Marvel, and there are some with DC and stuff like that. But the creator owned stuff that's coming out is very high end and high quality, and that, you know, if those writers, especially the new ones that are coming through, can get picked up by some of the bigger guns, then eventually that ship will be turned as well, and like we'll get more, you know, high quality, like, you know, Cy Sparrow, who is a fantastic writer, a coder and Step by Bloody Step, and an amazing run on Hellraiser that got cut short too soon. But, you know, he's now doing Flash for DC. He's still doing Marvel stuff as well, but he's taken on Flash, which is, you know, a massive coup for DC to have him on board, because he knows his shit. So, you know, those guys coming through and not coming through, I mean, he's been around for a long time, but you know what I mean. New people would be really easy just to, you know, throw the same people and things. As much as I love Tom King, it would be really easy to take Tom King and put him on Flash and Wonder Woman and doing a big crossover event. But, you know, you've got like Ram V doing Detective Comics, you've got Cy Sparrow doing Flash, you've got Tom King doing Wonder Woman. Like,
it's like nice, it feels like a new kind of wave again.
It does,
which is cool.
It's exciting.
Tom King cleared up at the Eisners as well, I saw.
He did, I also saw he's I didn't even know it was in the works, but he's doing a Boom Studios comic.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's sort of a horror comic by the sounds of it. So it's
Did it say who's doing the art?
Artists.
Because I assume it's not Mitch.
Yeah. No, it's not Mitch. It's Mitch. We know him well.
His art is awesome though. Like every time I see Mitch's art, I'm like,
Peter Gross.
Oh,
Peter
cool.
Gross is doing it.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
So there's a bunch of you know, I like hearing it's, you know, it's almost like Scott Snyder was doing DC for so long, and like when he popped up, you know, when he did a few Image comics before that, but also during it, or like when he popped up with like what was the one he did with Jeff Lemire, which was like a prose type thing.
After Death. AD.
After Death, like things like that. Those sort of things always are quite exciting. So seeing Tom King on a Boom Studios,
it's cool.
Like, oh, cool. And then they're also Image Comics they've just got the rights for not just, but Transformers and everything. So
cool.
Daniel Warren Johnson, who writes a fantastic comic called Do a Powerbomb, he's a Murder Falcon. He's doing Transformers now through Image Comics, and they've made this whole universe with Robert Kirkman and stuff. So all very exciting.
Amazing.
The biggest thing from San Diego Comic-Con, though, which
Mm.
I don't know how much time we're going to have to talk about, but was we got more about Spider-Man 2, the PlayStation
Yes,
5,
we
which is
did.
due out on the 20th of October.
Yeah.
So there is a very, very fancy. It seems like they're about to announce a PlayStation 5 Slim, but in the meantime, if you want a bigger PlayStation 5, you can get a Spider-Man 2 PlayStation. And as we're promoting this for PlayStation, Nick and I would like one each.
I'll just take the covers because you can get the covers separately.
You can get the covers. So
yeah.
It sounds like it's sold out everywhere, but you can get them. They're all up for pre-order here in Jolly Norway. I did get a control. I did order a control.
Lucky.
I didn't know about the clip-on covers because there's something like a bit. I don't know. Like I like the look of them a lot, but it's like, is it worth £60 or whatever it is for clip-on covers?
I don't know. I mean, they're the same as what you'll get for the console, right? Like,
yeah. It's going to be one of those things where if I probably see them in person, I'll be like, you know what?
They're cool.
Need me some clip-on covers, but I got a control because I needed a second control anyway, and I knew they were going to do something. But the story trailer looked really good.
Yeah, Harry looks cool.
Harry just looked cool. I mean, there's obviously they'll probably do what they did with Spider-Man, where and a lot of like films are doing lately, where they're putting stuff in so they're leading you one way because it looks very much like Harry is going to be Venom, right?
Yeah.
For the tank has got like some symbiote stuff in it, but I'm of the impression, right? Bear with me here, that Harry's obviously in a bad place, and they're gonna see what the symbiote suit can do, and they're gonna try and do something with that. I don't know. I don't think Harry's going to be Venom, basically, right? It's too obvious. Cool. I don't think Kraven is going to be Venom either. So I think there's another twist in there somewhere, but I don't know what it is, because there was symbiote at the end of Spider-Man 1 with the end credits. There was the symbiote stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's also not necessarily that also could be during Spider-Man 2.
True.
So I was on the impression, did they take the symbiote stuff and they're like trying to fix Harry with that? But I don't know. It looks.
Do you think though that at the end of this story, you meet Eddie Brock?
I think Eddie Brock will be in there somewhere.
Yeah, but do you think like the end will be Venom on Eddie Brock? Because they've said that like the Venom in it isn't Eddie Brock, but that doesn't mean the last like stinger could be that.
I mean, imagine him coming up. He could just be mentioned at the end, and then like he could get a job at the Daily Bugle or something like that. But
cool.
I don't think it's the end, because this will be. I know Miles Morales is in there as well, but there'll be a trilogy for this, right?
Yeah.
There's no way there isn't a Spider-Man 3.
No.
So I imagine Venom will still have a part to play, even if it's just like a bit part in Spider-Man 3. I think Eddie Brock will be involved. I feel like they're probably going to tease more of something like a Spider-Gwen will be the sort of tease that we get. Cool. At some point, which would make sense to play a Spider-Gwen in the third one. Might be a bit overwhelming, but it sounds like you're going to be able to play as Miles and Peter, and then also do missions as Mary Jane, and also there is some rumors that you'll be able to play as Venom as well. So these already packed up, isn't it? So I think there's
a lot.
I think maybe there's a lot. I mean, it's going to be. I think it'll be a long game as well, which I'm always excited about, because it's a big game and there's a lot to back in, and they've already. Nice that you can, when you see the map and stuff, like you can see a few like older characters in there, like we said before, but they've got so much potential with the Rogues Gallery in Spider-Man that they could just do a lot. I mean, I fully expect Green Goblin to be the villain in the third one. Like, I think that's the term we'll see. I think there's logic that something happens to Harry, and then he turns into the normal, turn into the Green Goblin, because obviously you could do Harry turning into it, but obviously we've seen that. I know we've seen the Green Goblin before, but I think this story will warrant like a full
thing,
circle type thing. So
cool.
I'm really excited. Like I can't wait. I don't know. Oddly, the control comes out on the 5th of September. So
yeah, so the covers do as well. I think like all the
way before the
September
game. So but 20th October. I mean, it's not bad time because I'm having another baby in 2 weeks' time, so it's gives me a bit of a window to get that get the swing of that before I have to swing in Spider-Man.
There you go.
Web swinging references and puns.
So
that's really exciting. So it's nice that they didn't hold back. Obviously, they showed a massive chunk of the trailer and all the accessories, and rightfully so. PlayStation have got like a lot of high hopes for the game, haven't they? I mean, it's just so. The first game was just really loved, wasn't it? And Miles Morales did really well. So I'm going to try and get a playthrough of Spider-Man and Miles Morales in before I play Spider-Man 2. But that's a lot to. I've started Spider-Man a bit more again recently, but it's probably big ask with the baby on the way. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Cool.
All right. Wow. That's the end of
just before we do wrap up,
it's not the end.
It's going to be a real quick one because we mentioned on the last podcast. Thoughts on the fact that they'd cast Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, yeah. It's the guy from Gotham and other things, isn't it? I can't remember his name.
Barry,
is it?
Yeah.
He's in Barry, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, yeah. But
is his name also Barry?
No. Maybe.
Is it?
Can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's good.
His name.
Yeah. Anthony, yeah. I think it's I think it's good casting. Like, I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to go on in this film. Like,
I don't either.
Like, I don't know. No idea, but I trust James Gunn. I mean, I like Nathan Fillion as well.
I thought he was cool casting for Guy Gardner though.
I think it's a good casting. Obviously, I don't see him being like a massive part of this new DCU thing going forward. I imagine they'll probably will go eventually with Hal Jordan. But if it's a way to like introduce the Green Lantern Corps early and then kind of takes away that sort of like origin bit from Hal Jordan, or if Nathan just passes the torch very quickly in that kind of a film. And I don't know, because Green Lantern, is Green Lantern Corps announced for anything? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think, aren't they still doing a series where it's still
TV show, yeah,
it's Hal and John, right? I think that's still the plan. So
because Nathan Fillion obviously film and TV guy, isn't he? So he could pop up in a TV show. So if that's like planting seeds for that, or if he gets killed off or something, like if he gets killed off and he's like one of the main heroes of the universe, and then Superman has to step up, I don't know, but good casting. I'm still chuffed with Lois Lane's casting more than anything. So I'm very happy. I'm very looking forward to it. But again, all of that's going to be delayed even more now, isn't it? So
probably,
it's a shame because this doesn't look like it's getting any easier with this writer strike. It looks like it's looks like it's going to get worse. I saw that who's the actress that plays She-Hulk? I can't remember her name. Tanya. Is it Tanya?
I can never.
Gosh, we've got to get better names before we start our next season. But she came out. She came out about the Disney CEO today, didn't she? Bobby Iger. She said Iger. She's basically said like he's needs to do better, basically. And obviously, she's probably a key part in the MCU stuff going forward. So big for her to speak up and everything. So I think and Colin Farrell, he's down there doing his thing as well, isn't he? So he's a big player as well. So there's a lot of Bryan Cranston I saw did a speech and stuff. So
they halted the Penguin series.
They did, but it's crazy to hear these stories, isn't it? Like about how much money these people have made before. Like I read, I don't know how true it is. I don't know if it's a real source or not, but I read that Sean William Scott said he got paid $8,000
for
American Pie.
Yeah.
That's mental. But then again, you see these celebs of like on their back then as well, like cribs and everything, and they were like rolling in money. It seemed like, but then obviously if they're living like paycheck to paycheck, which most people do, like $8,000 for a film that grossed X amount of million is absolutely crazy. So I saw as well like a bunch of celebrities and stuff like we're gonna have to have an OnlyFans soon because they're like obviously they're losing money, obviously, aren't they? They've got money put by in these put by to support these sort of strikes and everything, but it's crazy that it's like it's so bad. When you see like how well the Avengers films and stuff do, and they're making their billions, and like we hear about like negotiating of contracts and everything like that, and they're making like 45 million. You think, well, if he's on 45 million, then at least like these other actors are probably getting like 5 million, but it's just not the case. So balmy. Then it makes you think like how people like in comics and stuff get paid, right? Like all funnels down, right? So it's tough when you see like the letterers aren't getting paid and the colorists aren't getting paid, and it's a bit of a shit show, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're doing this for free.
Yeah.
Jesus. Strike. Right, so that is the end of this episode. So, everyone, we've got one more episode left of season 3, which is our last in-depth episode, the Kevin Smith films, and we're talking about Clerks 3. So that will be out after this episode. Are we doing a double bill?
Probably. We'll let you know. You'll see.
We'll do another double. Then we've got some changes coming about season 4, which you'll hear announcements for in due course, probably over the next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes on our channels. We are also going to change a little bit on our social media, but we don't need to go into that now. But for now, you can find us on Twitter at ConsistentlyPod and on Instagram at ConsistentlyPod, and also Threads. And although we have a bit of issue with Threads, so I don't know what people can see, but we're having technical issues with Threads, so it's new. And you can see us in person with these videos on YouTube. You just look for Consistent OK Podcast. And on any podcast provider, you just search for Consistent OK Podcast. You can track down not just this episode or the previous episode, or the episode that's coming out after this episode, or all our other episodes. I don't know how many episodes we've done now, but it's a lot, I think. Yeah. Feels like a lot. Not in a bad way, in a good way. So, all right, that's it for this episode. So thanks everyone for listening. Everyone take care. Nick, I will talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye.